Hello there, sword friends. Today I have something of a sad day for me, but perhaps a happy day for the next owner, and that is I am sending off and have sold this fine example of a Japanese sword. Now, this is one of the pieces that I've owned. It's a Nihonto, a genuine Japanese sword made by a Japanese smith some time ago, and honestly, I don't have a whole lot to share with you by way of history of this Kaneyasu katana. It's not one that I've honestly invested a huge amount of time in studying. I've taken it out and appreciated it. It's a very finely made sword. It doesn't have many flaws and imperfections outside of perhaps needing a touch up on the polish. It's just a really beautiful sword. No inclusions, pockets, problems, and it's got a very bold bold polish on it. Lots of embellishments and zazz, which happens to be just the way I like it. Now it's a short one. It's not ever anything that I got with the intention of using. It's more just an appreciation for the craft, and that's what I thought I would share with you before I box it up and send it off again to the next caretaker, is just to share some of the details that I can share about build quality, the general stuff that I have. Now, these fittings, again, fine example. It came in a full mount, but the mount is it's done by an amateur, somebody who's aspiring to be better and who's learning the craft, and it's a challenging thing to do. It's certainly better than I could do, but it isn't maybe at the same level as the sword is. The parts are, but not the fit and finish. You can see that the diamonds are a little kind of haphazardly placed and things like that, but if I set that aside and just look at some of the parts that are on here, it has a really nicely put together floral theme, both in the Fuji Kashra as well as the Kurikata on the scabbard has some floral themes in it, and it's not something that I touch on very often. This is kind of a reasonable example of nice fittings, and it's what Chinese swords often try to emulate, this very kind of bold gold and black pattern. But this honestly isn't even the best example that you might see in Japanese style fittings, but it's certainly better than most of the things that I tend to feature on the channel. And they're really well placed, very crisp and clean because it's done by hand. It's hand carving and engraving and patterning and things like that. It's not at least not very likely cast. This has some silk on it. It's nice and large nodule samigawa, but the handle is not tied particularly tight. The Manukian fittings are all really quite nice. I also mentioned that it is a really nice kurigata, which is kind of fun to see on a full mount. The scabbard has some kind of oddities in the way it's sanded down and some of the transitions. But again, this isn't something for practice. It's more or less to take out and appreciate. It's always needed maybe a different mount on it if you wanted something pristine. The blade, though, just has absolutely gorgeous, fun, cool activities. It came with a two-piece habaki that's copper. Again, not anything particularly special, and it's got some wear around where the habaki is now that I've taken it apart. But the blade itself is just absolutely something to behold. Again, the polish on it, excellent. The kasaki is very pretty. There's all sorts of just activity and floaty, cloudy lines in a hamon here that are something to see. Now, I could probably take some time and explain the pattern on the hada and the pattern in the hamon and what I'm seeing here and kind of guide you along an appreciative journey, but honestly, I don't have time to go over it and edit it and deal with it. I have to put this together in a box, and I thought I would just share some of the metaphorical sword porn with you before I did. It is a pretty sword. I'd hope to one day do a video and kind of deep dive into Kaneyasu, talk a little bit about history, which is something that I tend to miss on the channel, and maybe go over some of the appreciable points of this particular blade, given that it's a fine example. But it sold before I ever got around to it, and so even though I've had it for years, I never quite got around to it. There's always other mass production swords and things like that seem to come my way. Anyway, that's not a big deal. Hopefully you enjoy the video. That's really all I have. Cheers. Thanks for watching.